Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Board Masters with me, Chris Mullins. And this week I'm going to follow on from last week's video where I talked about why I cancelled Massive Darkness 2. And I am going to look at all the games that I bought to replace Massive Darkness 2, because getting all that money back, plus the money I had set aside for the shipping, burned a hole in my pocket very quickly. And because it was set aside for a board game, I've had it'd be very rude of me to not spend it on more board games, and I went a bit crazy with the retail ones. So let's dive straight in. First one I got was Village Attacks, and got this one. It wasn't one I was really aware of, to be honest, prior to cancelling Massive Darkness, but it was one I saw on Facebook Marketplace that someone was selling, and the whole idea of it really appealed to me at that point. I made an offer to the seller, which they didn't accept, sadly. But then it actually came on sale, brand new in retail, for a price cheaper than I offered for the second-hand version. So absolutely lucked out there. Basically, it's a tower defense game where you play as the bad guys. You are monsters that hold up in a castle, and the villagers have hired heroes and are storming the castle to try and destroy you, basically. And I guess it was kind of the next stage on from one of the next game on the list, which I will jump to now. And that one is Castle Panic, which is a game I bought primarily to play with my son Alex, and we will have I think by the time this goes live we will have already done the video to Castle Panic on here. I'm trying to think. So Castle Panic, possibly not. Maybe that Castle Panic video is going up in a couple of days after this, but that's neither here nor there really. But basically Alex wanted some cooperative games, because I bought a bunch of competitive games which I'll come to later, and he was quite upset that there wasn't any team games, so I went straight back online and bought a bunch of team games, and Castle Panic was one of them, and it quickly became one of our favourites. And the first thing I said to my wife after playing it was how amazing it would be playing this with beautiful minis and things, and then discovered Village Attacks, which is basically a more complicated version of this with beautiful minis. So very happy with both of those. Next we have got Century Golem Edition, which is one of the competitive games that I bought, and thankfully Alex still really enjoys this, and Stace loves it, and so do I. It is absolutely beautiful game. It's really smooth, quick to learn, and really enjoy the tactical decisions and strategies. Like, we've had a number of games now where none of them have ever seemed to go the same way. Either we've had games where we've played the first 6, 7, 8 turns where nobody's bought like a merchant card at all. We've just been cycling through the 2 standard cards in order, because we didn't see the value in the merchant cards. And then we've had other games where that's all we've done, and it works just as well either way. It's just a really enjoyable, fun game, and it's one that it's on the edge of what Alex can handle at this point in terms of complexity, but we don't mind giving him a little bit of help now and again. And yeah, thankfully it's one he still asks to play, which is a bonus. One that he doesn't ask to play, sadly, but me and my wife Stace love playing, is Azul. And this is basically a game where you're making patterns out of these gorgeous little ceramic tiles, and you've got to try and make up patterns of rows and columns, and using all the different types of tiles. And there's rules in terms of you can't put a tile in a row if you've already filled up that row for that colour. I'm explaining it really poorly. But yeah, it is just a stunningly beautiful game. Really enjoy the strategy, and particularly between me and my wife, we really enjoy playing this. So I definitely recommend that. I would like to try and give a go of the summer pavilions, because that seems to be even highly rated. Another one of the cooperative games I bought is Forbidden Island. And it's probably the oldest one of the games I bought as well, collecting a little bit of dust because it hasn't been out for a few weeks. But again, it's one that we've really enjoyed. We've lost as many as we've won, and yeah, we just really enjoy working as a team. The quality of the components probably isn't something that really wins you over, but for the price point, it's fine. I mean, it says ages 10 and up, but Alex has no problem with it being 7. And the way the island is sinking constantly really ramps up the tension, and you do get a bit of sort of panic feeling that I really enjoy in other games like XCOM. So yeah, it's just a great team game that we love. Going back to the competitive games, we have Baron Park. And again, I've kind of developed a bit of love for Polyamino games already. I've been playing a fair bit of Planet Unknown online, because obviously the physical versions got delayed till the summer. But from there, I bought a couple of Polyamino games in this bundle. And again, this is one that we all love. Alex actually won the first game we played. He filled his park absolutely perfectly, as did Stace, but Alex got slightly more points and I had 1 free spot, so I finished a miserable and distant 3rd. But yeah, a Polyamino game where basically you're laying these different shaped, like almost Tetris shaped tiles to fill in these grids to design the best bear park. And it's a lovely theme, and it's just great fun, as Polyamino games seem to be for me. The next one, where shall I go next? Another back to cooperative, and it's Quirky Circuits. And this one is probably the one game we've played so far that causes a fair amount of family arguments. We've had a few fallings out over this, even though it's cooperative, which is strange. We did start off on the easy mode, where basically if you ever, when you're in school, depending on your age, I'm mid-30s and I got to do this in junior school, where you had this little round robot that came into class and you had to program it, whether it goes forward or turn and then forward again or back, and you had to program it in that way. That's basically what you're doing here. You have this beautiful book of scenarios, and then you have these little characters like Gizmo or Twirl, and they all have different sort of... Gizmo's the basic, the start. Twirl is a flying bee, so if she goes forward too quickly, then she gains momentum, so we'll actually move a 3rd space before she turns. The dog has to pick things up and deliver them. I think the robot's called Lefty, I might be wrong. He basically works on a sort of food carousel, and he's picking stuff up with both hands and spinning round and placing things. We haven't actually tried any of his levels yet, so I'm not too familiar. But on the easy mode, it was great fun, because it was easy, but it was great fun because we could work together and communicate and get Gizmo around these beautiful little maps, picking up all the dust bunnies and avoiding knocking over the vases. And then we tried it on hard, where you're not allowed to talk to each other at all, and you're not allowed to show anyone your cards either. So you're basically trying to assume that you're all got the same idea in terms of which dust bunny you're going to next, what path you're trying to take, and that you've got to try and get on the same page and assume you're taking the right directions. But it can be very funny when that all goes wrong and you're just bouncing around the room, knocking over vases, and it's all going to chaos. And although we have plenty of arguments, it seems to be not to do with when it goes wrong, weirdly. It's like we're so passionate about getting it right that when it's going well, we seem to have more fights than when it's going badly. I don't really know how to explain it, but it certainly is still good fun. Its next one is one I am very excited to dive into. As you can see, I haven't unboxed this one. I'm hoping... I don't know if I will do an unboxing on this one or not, because from what I understand, there's going to be an awful lot in here, and certainly not as much as the big box, but we'll see. I probably will film it and see how long it takes. But Gleamhaven is a name now that's obviously synonymous with board games, and I'm a bit reluctant to dive into the big box yet because I just find it really intimidating. But getting Jaws of the Lion for, well, it was under 40 quid in the end, which was an absolute bargain and a good taster, and hopefully we'll catch the bug on that and then make the big box completely indispensable. The next one has quickly become my wife's absolute favourite game out of all of these, the Quacks of Quedlinburg, and yeah, we absolutely love it. It's probably the one game that I have had a bad experience with, in that I played a game against my wife and I lost every single round, I think, other than the last one, and I think 8 of the 9 rounds, or no, maybe 6 or 7 of the rounds ended in my first 6 or 7 chips. Every single round I was just drawing. Basically, you put these little ingredient chips in a bag and you draw them blind, and if you draw too many white ones, then you basically, your cauldron blows up. And I was just drawing white after white after white. I would have 15 chips in there of various colours, and my first 5 would all be white. And it seemed to I don't mind it when it's 1 or 2 rounds, but it was the first 6 or 7 rounds, round after round, and it was just demoralising. But actually the last game we played was quite similar. I think I was actually losing by around 15 points going into the last round, and I actually had a blinding round. I almost got to the end of the cauldron track, whereas my wife had a bad round for a change and she had to stop early, and I think I had a 30 plus point round in the end, where I overtook her and won by 2 or 3 points. And up until that point, it had definitely felt like a game where I was really worried that once you're behind, there didn't feel like a genuine way to sort of catch up. But that's reassured me that is possible now. So it's a game that I really, really, really enjoy, but it's also a game now that I don't go into worrying that once you cut adrift it's game over and you have to go through 4 or 5 rounds of misery like I did the previous one. The next one, jumping back on the Polyamino train, and also if you've watched much of my content, you'll see that certainly one of the cats, Farah, likes to make a semi-regular appearance in either jumping in the middle of the gameplay videos or curling up next to me when I'm doing a conversational piece like this. So we are a cat household, and again this is one that I'm probably looking to do an unboxing on, and it's one that, you know, we are really excited about. It's Polyaminos and it's cats, which are 2 of the favourite things in this house. So whilst we haven't got it open yet, it is one that I really, really, really want to get to the table. I love the art style. You know, the story's a bit blacker than I really expected, in that there's an evil lord who's basically trying to destroy an island, and that's why you're rescuing the cats. I didn't expect it to be sort of that life or death, but even so, it promises to be a really big family favourite, that one. I'm running out of room now. The next one is one, despite it being hugely rated on Board Game Geek and one of the most highly regarded board games of all time, it is one that has me nervous, because it is a very almost sort of serious, dry theme. I'm not sure Stace will really go for it, although having said that, when it arrived in the post, it was the one that she was instantly drawn to, because it's different to probably the more fantastical stuff that I bought other than this. Obviously it's Brass Birmingham, and it definitely feels like a game that I need to play, and just based on how highly rated it is, but I am nervous about it, and I'm not going to lie, but at the same time it is one that I'm looking to get to the table. And you know, the board does look gorgeous, so I might do an unboxing on this one as well, which is why some of these are still in shrink wrap. most of these arrived in January, the ones that are open, and they're the ones that have hit the table and been opened. I haven't done unboxing on those, but the Isle of Cats, Brass Birmingham, and this last one all arrived, had on back order, so as well as Gleamhaven, so they only arrived in the last couple of weeks, which is why I haven't done anything with them yet. And this last one is the one I mentioned last week to show that there are no hard feelings with Come On After Massive Darkness, and that is Zombicide Black Plague, which again got at a ridiculous price, I feel, for under 50 quid from Zatu. Again, pretty much all of these came from Zatu. I think Gleamhaven came from Red Rock. But I will be doing an unboxing on this one, and again, similar to, I know it's not tower defense in the same way as Village Attacks, but it's got that similar sort of vibe and why it appeals to me in terms of fighting off hordes of zombies, moving around a map, completing objectives. Definitely sounds right up my street, and buying this now definitely has helped me avoid any sort of temptation or FOMO for the Zombicide Dead or Alive, I believe it's called, Kickstarter campaign that's on at the moment. So thankfully I've resisted that one because I have got this and need to get this to the table. But that is all of the games that I've bought to replace Massive Darkness 2. So we've got, oh no, it's not, we've still got one more, I'm telling a lie, the last one, and another hugely popular game is Terraforming Mars, and I've only got this to the table for one full playthrough with Stace, and I absolutely loved it. Again, it was a game similar to what happened with Quacks of Quedlenberg, where she was absolutely demolishing me going into the final round, and in the end game scoring, I think I had so many animals and whatnot and I had so many point scoring cards that I managed to claw back a 20-point deficit and sneak the win by literally a couple of points. And I think she had one, I don't know, I can't remember now, it was a month or so ago that we played it, and she tried to do something on her last turn which didn't quite happen, that cost her 3 or 4 points, and then I managed to have a perfect turn which put me in the lead by 2 or 3 points, and that basically made the difference between her winning and me winning, which I was very pleased about. And yeah, I just absolutely love the theme. I know this game is basically synonymous with terrible component quality, but it's not something that I necessarily feel about the game so far. I know I wish the boards were sort of dual layered like in Dinosaur Island on the DNA trackers, where the cubes are actually fixed on the board depending what slot you put them in. There is a real nightmare in terms of knocking things around the board, so you've got to be quite on the ball in terms of how much of each resource you've got, just in case they get knocked around. But I love the artwork on the cards, and yeah, I think it's almost the myth or the sort of general opinion has almost made its way into fact, in that you want to talk about a game with terrible production values, you talk about Terraforming Mars. But I don't know, maybe it's because I'm new to the hobby that, yeah, it's not as gorgeous and doesn't have the like quality of a Too Many Bones or something like that, but I've got absolutely no problem with it. And I can, from our one playthrough so far, I absolutely understand why the game is as highly rated as it is, because it was a hugely fun game. And with Stace being a science teacher, the whole idea of terraforming a planet to make it livable was something that really appealed to her. But that is all of them, and as I said, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games there, many of which are hugely popular amongst the community and very, very highly rated, in place of one game that, from a company with a very, very good track record. The first game was, I believe the first Massive Darkness was fairly mixed reviews, although it has a lot of very passionate fans. it's definitely got me thinking about whether I've gone about getting into this hobby completely wrong, in terms of I dived into this hobby full on through Kickstarter campaigns. As I said previously, Return to Dark Tower was the game that sort of got me into this space, and while I bought a handful of retail games last summer and then got a few for sort of Christmas, birthday, it has almost exclusively been Kickstarter campaigns for me. And you know, the idea of getting 14 games that we generally really love, obviously there's 4 or 5 we haven't got to the table yet, but 14 games in place of 1 by buying retail has got me seriously thinking about how I'm going to approach the hobby going forward. And that is going to be something I talk about in a video next week, I believe. So I'm going to be doing a retail versus Kickstarter video. So hopefully you'll join me for that, and hopefully you've enjoyed this one. And I'm going to leave it there. So thank you very much for watching if you have, and look after yourself, stay safe, and have a good one. Thank you. Bye bye now.